Today is part 4 of our historical opioid journey. Part 1, 2, and 3, we have talked about the first man-made opioids, which is morphine, codeine, and heroin. But we also want to talk a little bit about cocaine. Cocaine is not an opioid. It is derived from coca leaves. But cocaine and heroin are to this day two of the top addictive agents, products that are in our society. So it's important that we cover cocaine as well. Cocaine was first extracted from coca leaves in 1859 by a German chemist. In 1886, it became very popular because due to a man named John Pemberton, and he formulated this soft drink using coca leaves, which he touted that it gave you euphoric and energizing effects, which made it just skyrocket in sales. The coca leaves used formulated the product Coca-Cola. It was extremely popular from 1850s to the early 1900s, along with other cocaine and opium-laced elixirs, tonics, and wines from all different social classes. Inventor Thomas Edison was one of them, and actress Sarah Bernhardt. Hollywood used their influences, as what they very much do today, to tout the miracle effects of cocaine products, which reached out to millions of people. Cocaine use increased, and the dangers of the drug finally became more evident. And the public put so much pressure on Coca-Cola, forcing them to remove coca leaves from Coca-Cola products in 1903. One of the catalogs that I have that is from 1897 at Sears and Roebuck, and on page 27 they have laudanum, and it is really cheap. Laudanum products, and on the back it says, "Imagine it's the end of the 19th century. With one catalog, you can buy everything from beds and tools to clothing and opium." Yes, opium. So it's all very much still legal. Finally, in 1905. Congress banned opium. The following year, Congress passed the Pure Food and Drug Act, which required pharmaceutical companies to label their patented medicines with complete contents. And as a result, the availability of opioid drugs in the U.S. significantly declined. In 1909, Congress banned the import of opium, and in 1914, Congress passed the Harrison Narcotic Act, which aimed to curb drug abuse and addiction, which it didn't. What it did was force the black market, and it created a huge black market in New York City. In 1923, the U.S. Treasury Department's Narcotics Division, the first federal drug agency, banned all legal narcotic sales, forcing addicts to buy from illegal dealers, which in New York's Chinatown, it opened a huge black market. Passed by Congress in 1914, the Harrison Act was the first instance to apply criminal laws to non-medical use of drugs. So they're trying to crack down, but there's thousands of drug addicts by now. And now they are, if you can't get it from the doctors, you have to get it from the black market. Reduction in opioid distribution. Initially, it was thought that the provisions of the Act merely looked to regulate marketing of opioids and other narcotics. However, a clause concerning doctors prescribing drugs in the course of this professional practice only caused confusion in the way it was written in the laws. This clause was interpreted by law enforcement agencies to mean that doctors could not prescribe opioids to addicts because addiction was not considered to be a disease. This caused a number of medical practitioners to get arrested and be jailed. This sort of adverse action widely discouraged doctors from prescribing opioids, which was supported in a decision by Supreme Court of 1919. So the doctors were afraid if they would prescribe something, they would end up going to jail. And then amphetamines developed in the 1930s took off in the 1950s. It was marketed by drug companies and promoted by doctors. It was used for weight loss and anxiety and depression. And then methamphetamines was developed by Burroughs Wellcome Drug Company. And it was often prescribed as diet pills and abused by those attracted by the surge of energy it produced. Methamphetamines was developed in Japan in 1919, and it was widely used during World War II when both sides used it to keep their troops awake. High dosages was given to the Japanese kamikaze pilots right before their suicide missions. After the war, methamphetamine abuse was injected and reached epidemic proportions when storages of the supply of military became available to the Chinese public. In the 50s, methamphetamines was prescribed as a diet aid and to fight depression. Easily available, it was used as a non-medical stimulant by college students, truck drivers, and athletes, and the abuse was just widespread. And that is all for part 4, and we will see you next week. Thank you.